We keep thinking about how should we get rich. You follow the discipline, do your basics. Through your journey of investments, there will come a biryani by kilo. You will stumble upon something like that because your orientation is such.
Right.
You're open to ideas, you're evaluating what you can do. जब हम सोच ही नहीं रहे हैं, तो वो आएगी भी opportunity, तो it will not come to you. And you should be open to the fact that some of them will work out, some of them will not. But one of them, one or two will really work out. Don't we hear stories of our, granddad saying, वो land खरीदी थी, अब तो वो सोना है,
Right.
things like those. So it'll happen with you too. But you can't work only on them.
Hello and welcome to episode 23. Today we're talking about money. Our relationship with money is complex. I think the biggest catastrophe of our times was that our parents, Indian parents, advised us to save. Saving doesn't appeal to many people because it sounds so defensive, doesn't it? Like one day you might need it. ये क्या बात हुई? Investing on the other hand has a whole different ring to it. But हमने investing के बारे में सुना ही नहीं था कभी. Like when we were growing up. This wasn't commonly available knowledge. Investing is a game. It has a purpose to it. It's a skill. There's something to learn, something to get better at and master. This gamification makes it exciting and there's something to be won. Saving doesn't have any of this. The only thing saving evokes is don't spend today because you might need it one day, which translates into sacrifice your today in fear of some imaginary doomsday or imaginary tomorrow. The difference, I believe, lies in the emotion it evokes. Well, our parents did the best that they could, given the limited knowledge they had access to. Let's be fair, it's not even been 2 decades since the things like mutual funds have become more mainstream. And we now have access to a world of knowledge about personal finance that simply was not publicly available. We now have access to experts who can guide us on what's the most optimal way to manage our personal finances and build wealth with minimal risk. Speaking of experts, please help me in welcoming Deepali Mathur Dayal, who's an ex-banker turned entrepreneur and an angel investor. Deepali had been a banker for over a decade, managing portfolios of ultra-high net worth individuals, which is where she developed a deep understanding of the business of luxury. That, along with her flair for fashion and grooming, led to the conceptualization of a chain of luxury boutique salons called Magnifique. You can visit these in Vasant Vihar and Defense Colony. She also started a toxin-free, cruelty-free grooming brand aimed at Gen Z, which was voted as the product of the year in 2020, and it also won the Organic Beauty Award Australia in 2020 as well. Deepali herself has won the prestigious Business World 40 Under 40 award and is now on to her third venture called Invest Queen by Deepali, where she intends to share investment knowledge for all, but especially she wants to normalize women talking about finance. She wants women to make investments and become truly financially independent. I'll share the links to all of these in the show notes. You can go check them out. Finance is a mighty important subject that we are all taught very little about, and therefore on the Find Your Ultra podcast, we will continue to bring on experts to help us with our financial health. This is the first of many episodes to come on the subject. In case you haven't yet followed the podcast, please go follow it on Spotify or wherever you're getting this podcast. And so without further ado, let's dive right in. This is me and Deepali Mathur Dayal in the Find Your Ultra podcast, episode 23. Indulge away. Deepali Mathur, welcome to the Find Your Ultra podcast.
Thank you, Vipin. Thank you so much for having me over. Really excited about our conversation further.
Thank you so much for driving all the way and responding to a random DM, and I'm so glad that you're here.
I'm glad I did that too.
So I'm super excited about this conversation. The finance is a subject that I have been wanting to learn forever. Like I think mainly around 2020 during the COVID time, that's when we had a lot of time to watch videos and learn more about things.
Yeah.
That is the time I discovered the world of finance, and it's around the time that I read the book The Psychology of Money.
Okay.
And that has changed my perspective so much on this whole thing. Like I think whether you're sleeping peacefully at night or not, does not so much depend on what you've studied, how much you're making, what you're earning, but it depends so much on what you do with your finances, how well or how badly you manage them. So super excited about today's conversation. So Dipali, what do you do and why does it matter?
I run two enterprises within. I have been a banker for donkey's years, and the entrepreneurial dream, as they say, it hit me. And the bug bit me. And around 2014, 2015 was the time when I was evaluating a lot of business ideas. And then what I fancied is what I started my first venture as. So we opened salons in Delhi. The first one was inaugurated in 2016. The salon is called Magnifique. We thought, we identified this niche where we thought that there are, global travelers who appreciate hygiene, luxury, knowledge, expertise, hospitality, and we wanted to put together something special, and we did that. Today, we have two salons. There's one at Defense Colony in Delhi. There's the other one at Vasant Vihar. So the first venture was by design, but the second venture was something that was not really planned. I happen to be a mother. I have a teenage daughter. And when she was entering her tweens, like any millennial conscientious parent, I used to read labels. My family also has had this history of cancer everywhere, and therefore I was probably more conscious about reading labels and what I was bringing for her to consume. So she used to play sports. I was just looking for a toxin-free deodorant spray, but I couldn't buy a single one. All of them. And when I say this, I tell you that there was no deodorant brand that I wouldn't have evaluated because I just wanted to buy it off the shelf. I couldn't find a single product which was not full of toxins. And when I say toxins, I'm talking about carcinogen. Got me thinking, is there any brand that's testing products for, the Generation Z, tweens, teens, young adults? Are there more products that I will need during these formative years of her life? But is there anybody doing that? The answer was no. Evaluated that in our country, about 35% of the population is them. And yet, there is a lot of work happening just in baby care or at the other end of the spectrum. So, which is, anti-aging. So that's when I decided that it was time to enter into and plunge into a segment which was not explored. The brand is called Super Smelly. We launched the brand with India's first ever toxin-free spray deodorant. That format was not available before that. And started the brand somewhere in 2018, 2019. It's been about 5-6 years. And now we have a range of products for the young.
And where is it available?
So it started as a D2C brand. So we are available at all major e-commerce platforms. Of course, we sell through our website as well, but you look up Amazon, Flipkart, wherever you see, you'll find the products listed. We are also available offline, but largely in Delhi NCR.
Okay. So just a few things to sort of double click there I would want to know more about. About the salon business first. You said you were trying to fill you provide us different sort of an experience. How is that different? How is the experience different? What's so different about what you're doing?
So while I was a banker, I have always been interested in beauty and fashion, right? And within that, I realized that yes, today in our country, all of this is available to everybody, to every strata of the society. But what happens is when you get to a salon, there are so many other things like body shaving, eyebrow shaving, hair shaving that happens. These are finer points. Then in terms of expertise, you want the person who's treating you to kind of know his job very, very well. And so many such finer points. And then when we put the idea together, we realize that this is luxury, right? Somebody treating you right, somebody not telling you aapka last haircut kahan se hua tha. Having the right conversations. Your eyebrows are too thick to thread, it's very difficult. Having the right conversations, making the client comfortable, giving an environment which is hygienic and also, in terms of hospitality, making sure the kind of water you want, remembering the kind of coffee my client likes. And I feel so proud making this statement today within 7-8 years into this business, being an outsider. 75 to 80% of my clients and about 90% of my employees from the time we started the business are the same.
Wow.
I mean, it's
but I think that's what I was going to say.
Hop, skip and jump, and their clients do that with them. But if they've stayed, I think the whole credit goes to the culture. And I think, that's how
For
we got
sure.
the confidence to open the
For
second
sure.
one.
No, I used to be an independent brand consultant at one point, and we consulted a couple of salon brands. We helped create them. And one of the major issues in this industry is that staff leaves you pretty quickly. The attrition rate is pretty high. So if you've managed to retain those people, you must be offering something better. Like it's all about the culture. I totally agree with you.
It is about the culture.
Yeah, excellent. And about the other one, so bulk of us don't even know that deodorants contain carcinogens. So you researched and you found out, and then you wanted to create. So deodorant business also, like one of my previous consulting clients was a deodorant brand, and the numbers required are pretty big, aren't they, for those cans and everything?
So are you talking about when you go to a manufacturer that
Yeah.
MOQs are large?
Correct.
You're right. So when we started the brand, we did struggle with very large MOQs and negotiations around
Yeah.
that. But I think that was the smaller of the challenges because you've handled brands like that. The bigger challenge for us was creating a segment. पहली बात तो कोई Gen Z
Correct.
youngsters के लिए कुछ बना नहीं रहा. Secondly, nobody so far has experienced toxin-free deodorants. You know? So and obviously with a startup you have only so much marketing money. So that was the bigger challenge for us. Manufacturing. Interestingly, I have a chemistry honors background, so I could understand the formulations better. We could crack the R&D part and negotiate MOQs, having that little banking background a little better. I think we were okay there. What we faced as the biggest challenge was to create this category, but I feel that in the last 8 to 9 years, a lot of FMCG brands have woken up to the segment. A lot of them now use the term Gen Z. When we started out, there were no reports, there was no market research, there was absolutely nothing. Everything available online was only from the US. All the reports were American.
Okay.
But now there's a lot more happening on ground, and that helps the segment because the more players there are, there's more marketing money automatically, and people get aware of the fact that this segment needs so much. I mean, these are the formative years of your life. Your acne happens for the first time. You understand your gender for the first time. You want to stand out, but yet you want to belong. I mean, there's so much happening,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So we wanted to be that partner in this age where you grow with us and we accept things as they are. In fact, I am not a Gen Z, I'm a millennial. What do I understand? And therefore, we try and be in touch with the next generation as much as possible. And slowly, the brand was not born as gender neutral, but it is gender neutral today.
Okay.
It wasn't born as skin color positive, but we are skin color positive today. It wasn't acne positive. हम सोचते acne अच्छा नहीं है, let's cure acne. But today we're very acne positive. We say it's okay, we have skin like this, let's try and improve it if that makes you happy.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that we learned from this gen was that they're against all those patriarchal beliefs that lead to gender inequality. So all our communication,
Yeah.
especially around deodorants. You know how you typically see deodorants is that a macho man
Oh,
will
yeah.
spray it on his body
Yes.
and some 10 girls will stick to him like magnets.
Yeah.
But what we try to say is that it's a very basic hygiene requirement. Like you want a face wash, a body wash, you need a deodorant.
Right.
Simple. It's got nothing to do with boys and girls.
Right.
And yet 70% of consumption in our country for deodorants is all men. So, well,
Yeah.
it'll take its own course and its own time, but
Super interesting.
we're trying to trigger some sort of a movement there. And hopefully
Yeah.
we can do
So
that.
it's actually moved beyond carcinogens and beyond just the organic facet of it.
Yes, we wanted it to be safe. Now that's the foundation of what we are building. We're building a toxin-free, tested brand for youngsters. But it has to resonate with them. They have to want to
I was just
buy
going to
it.
ask you, does the audience really care about this being, let's say, carcinogen free, or do they really, does the Gen Z think much about all these things?
There are two aspects to it. Gen Z, they're a very good generation. I think our generation, we were good, but we were generally rebels without a cause. We had so much to, we had so much, we were very competitive. We had different principles and values. These guys are really good. They care for animals, they care for the environment. My daughter tells me that we don't need to go shopping because look at my cupboard, I've got so much. I never thought like
Wow.
that. I wanted more. So they genuinely are really nice kids and they value this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we as parents are different from our parents. I would have used everything that my mom and dad had put in the bathroom,
Correct.
sharing everything, even
Yeah.
the soap, right?
Yeah.
But today we are buying separate things for them. And as a mom, when she was a little baby, I was reading the labels. Ye hair wash alag hai, your moisturizer is baby moisturizer, it's different, it should be paraben free. And thanks to so many new age brands, they've done a lot of research, and they've really grown this category and expanded this category, and we want to buy toxin free. For them. So therefore, when it comes to Gen Z, yes, they care, but at the end of the day, they're not the spenders. Your mom and your dad have to have that inclination to buy something which is safe for you.
Yeah.
So the brand had to be fun, quirky, responsible, and they had to also communicate with the parents that, look at me, I'm safe for your kids. So that's the kind of communication that we've worked.
Interesting. Super interesting.
Yeah.
Let's go back to then. Let's go back a little bit. Before both these brands were born, what's your journey been like? What had you been doing? How did you develop interest in finance? What was that like? And you have a banking background.
Yes.
So just run me through what was your childhood like?
Okay. I come from a service family. My dad was in the Merchant Navy, which was a fancy profession back then.
Yeah.
Because we got to travel in the 80s and the 90s with him. And travel was not the kind of travel that we do today. Everybody travels today. But apart from that, coming from a family like that, it was only studying all the time. So you had to get good marks, you had to get to good colleges. If you liked music, it was maybe to listen to some music, maybe learn a little, but marks aane chahiye.
Right,
So,
correct.
So that's how I've grown up. And that's why logically, if you were meritorious, you did your graduation, you did your post-graduation, I did it all. All through got really good marks everywhere, but never liked maths. I feel why I'm mentioning maths is because finance and maths, generally we find them linked. Even today, do I admit it on your podcast or not? I don't know. I can't do mental maths. I use my calculator for the smallest of the calculations. So I never enjoyed maths. But finance is different with it. I mean, what I realized was, because I happened to be in a profession where I was responsible for a lot of money of a lot of HNIs, slowly became a private banker from retail. In those 10, 12 years, I managed a lot of money. And I just found it natural that, you have to be very good at your job. So I wanted to learn everything. And another thing that I realized was, finance is different from maths. Managing your money is not difficult Pythagoras theorems or Fibonacci series. It is very, very simple. And you can choose to keep it simple. So I enjoyed finance because when I could make money for my clients, they were happy. When I invested my little bit, I made money, I was happy. So there was gratification. You know how when you work out, it's so boring. But when you see changes in your body, you kind of like the hard work. So finance has been that for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, but you said you can make it simple. Okay.
Yes.
So let's learn more about that. Tell me, so you were in banking and you were managing money of your HNI clients and you were making money, and that's where but did you stumble upon this job, or were you always wanting to go, did you study finance? What did you study?
Vipin, you know what? In my family, you could only choose 3 professions. Doctor, lawyer, or an accountant. I must have been a rebel to not choose that.
Okay.
Well, India Works was my campus placement. I don't think I thought so much. 21, 22, I wasn't thinking too much. I got married very early. 2006, I was married, and my first serious job was with HSBC. So I don't think I had planned this profession.
Okay.
But the only thing I was told as I was growing up was that don't think about money. Be very good at what you do and money will follow.
Okay.
पैसों के बारे में मत सोचो.
Right.
वो आ ही जाएगा.
Right.
So my only pursuit was to work very hard, understand what I'm doing, and do well there. And I just landed up being in a bank. So therefore, I just saw myself growing there. And I
got it. Fair enough. So we will learn about how to get rich from you. but before that, tell me about this whole relationship that people have with money, right? It's always been like, at least when we were growing up, right? Even till date, I think it's a cultural thing to पैसे से ज़्यादा प्यार करना ना कुछ अच्छा नहीं माना जाता. पीपल विल डिस्पाइस यू फॉर दैट. पीपल विल से ये तो बहुत मनी माइंडेड है, ये तो पैसे, इसको तो पैसे से मतलब है. सो एंड पीपल से मुझे पैसा नहीं चाहिए लाइफ में, मेरे को तो शांति चाहिए, सुकून चाहिए, वट नॉट. लाइक पीपल डू लाइक, बट whether you are somebody who wants a BMW or an Audi or expensive holidays, or you want a local holiday, even if that's what you want, you need money for everything, right?
That's true.
And so, first of all, why is the relationship with money? Why is it looked down upon? Why do people like despise rich people? कि ऐसा देखा जाता है कि जैसे किसी के पास पैसा है तो शायद वो गलत कुछ करके पहुंचा होगा, उन्होंने तो ऐसे कमाए होंगे वैसे कमाए होंगे, हमारी तो थोड़ी है मेहनत की कमाई. That sort of why is money relationship with money like that?
I don't know. Haven't you heard that one? जिसके पास जितना पैसा है उतनी problems है.
हाँ, correct,
also,
correct,
right?
correct.
I think, I don't know if that book mentions it, but I do believe that the relationship with money has to improve for most people. Because obviously, let's say if only about 2% of the people are rich and the rest of us are not rich, therefore, are we justifying it? But what it also means is that we are a sucker for the scarcity mindset, where we feel the resources are limited, isi mein khush ho jao, opportunities are limited, isi mein khush ho jao. There's a lot of competition, we don't know where will we reach. Vis-a-vis, the moment you move to an abundance mindset, you feel there are enough opportunities, there's so much money in the world.
And you no longer believe that for you to rise, somebody else has to fall.
It's not a zero-sum game. If I rise, all of them can also rise. And therefore suddenly the pressure is lifted off your shoulders, which means that you are looking at the opportunities with a very open and a light and a calm mind, and therefore you will do better than what you would when the resources were limited, right?
True.
But I think this was a way of justifying wherever we were, and just trying to say that let's try to be happy with whatever we have. But the second layer I see was the scarcity mindset. है ही नहीं इतना, हम सबको मिल ही नहीं सकता. So I think it needs a shift.
Excellent. And what about your relationship with money? What does money mean to you?
I have a very good relationship with money now, but I would like to say that there is a phase 1 of relationship and then phase 2 of relationship. Phase 1 was the scarcity mindset relationship because I grew up that way. Kaam karo, paisa aa jayega, right? So I was like that. I wouldn't even calculate how much incentive, how much bonus am I going to make. It was to that extent कि पैसे तो ठीक है वो हो जाएंगे. Let me just work hard. But once I started earning money, once I started investing in growing money, I realized when we look at wealthy, anybody who has wealth and money, we look at the fact that he's playing golf, but we don't see that he has the freedom and the time to play golf today. We see that, he's traveling in business class and first class. What we don't see is the comfort. And very recently, my parents were flying to Canada to meet my brother. I upgraded their tickets to business. That's the best use of money I have experienced so far because they are not that young anymore. They have certain back issues. It was a long flight. And in my heart, I knew they're going to be so comfortable.
Interesting.
Khana acha milega, aaram se jayenge. So now I love money. I know that this money can give me time to spend with my daughter. When I was working and she was just born, I would leave for work at 7 o'clock in the morning and be home by 9:30. My mom and my dad were practically raising her. Today, I come back on time. I spend time with her. So it's time, it's comfort, it's the confidence of being able to provide your near and dear ones all the comfort that they deserve. Anybody knocking on the doors of any of the hospitals, doctors, you just know you will be able to take care of them. I think it's very, very big. It's a very, very big comfort and freedom in your life if you can achieve that much. So now I keep saying I love money. There's a lot of money for all of us to earn and all of us should try and earn as much as possible.
I think a really interesting quote I heard about money was around freedom. He said, so having enough money allows you to not sacrifice your today for a better tomorrow.
That's true.
Right? It gives you that freedom. Interesting. So what are some of the mistakes people make in managing their finances?
I think the mistakes are the common mistakes. Greed, fear, and not knowing completely. I think these are the most common mistakes. You hear somebody say that buy this stock, you will be rich overnight. You put your house on mortgage. There is greed and there is incomplete knowledge and you go all out. losses.
Yeah.
Fear because you don't know enough, and especially with women, I feel, and I'm talking about the women part because I know we'll come to it with Invest Queen. I feel that they have never inherited money, they've never had money, they've never wanted to leave legacy क्योंकि खुद के पास ही नहीं है. Therefore, for them, the fear is a lot more. They feel even if they are educated, even if they are earning their own money, they say that, "Ji, मेरा husband खुशी खुशी एक काम ये कर रहा है, let him do this. This is one more, this is one thing off my, radar. कर लेगा खुशी खुशी." So there is fear that we lose money. There is no background where we've ever had money, so we don't have the bent of mind, and therefore we make mistakes in terms of where we are starting out. Who are we talking to? Can we be easily fooled? Yes, because we've never done this. So, but for both the genders, whenever there is greed, whenever there is fear, and whenever there is incomplete knowledge about what we're doing, mistakes happen. But mistakes also happen when you're doing everything very well calculated.
Correct.
So it's okay if your portfolio has everything that's making money, giving 20-30% return, then you're really a genius. I mean, it doesn't happen. You do make mistakes.
It does not.
That's normal.
Yeah.
5-10% will go here and there. It's okay. It's normal.
Okay. But you're saying the mistakes people make. You said, and one of them is last one that you said was around ignoring, not knowing enough. And what would you say about people who don't like? I think it was defining in my life, at least. We were told, our generation was mostly told about saving, save. It never appealed to me. The idea of saving never appealed to me at all. Save for what? Kal kisne dekha hai, and all of that. But when you learn about investing, it's a whole different world, right? कि ये पैसा आपको बचा के अकाउंट में रखने से तो कल काम आ जाएगा. जैसे डिफरेंट थिंग. ये आप कहीं ऐसी जगह डालोगे जहाँ पे 2 गुना, 4 गुना, 10 गुना, it will compound and you'll make more from it, and then tomorrow you will have more to buy more assets and a safer life and whatnot. So investing was not taught enough to our generation. Would you agree?
No. To any generation.
Yeah.
We don't have any subject where you learn to invest your own money.
True.
So all of us just grow up and we file our taxes, and where we start is by investing into PPFs and those insurance policies, because we want to save taxes, and that's it.
Yeah, that's about it.
You learn everything while you want to learn and while growing up.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yes, we are not taught.
Absolutely. These are self-taught. जिसका interest है वो शायद सीख लेगा करके, जिसका नहीं है वो नहीं सीख पाएगा. But now that we are on the subject, you have a daughter?
Yes.
And how old is she?
She's 14.
14. What do you teach her about money?
I've already started teaching her to start doing her own SIPs. So that was the first lesson.
Nice.
But where it came from was out of all the lessons that I've tried to give her, which is that she has to be financially independent. And there is only one way to be financially independent: to manage your own money yourself. You have to be working, earn your own money, invest your own money, and this will eventually give you the freedom to make the choices that you want to make in your life. Let's say she loves music. Yeah. Tomorrow, to pursue music, she has to have an income coming out of her bank to support that pursuit. Otherwise, she would want to sell music, right? Musician ho, artist ho, fashion designer ho, ultimately वो मजे की चीज मजा नहीं रहती है, because you have to sell it to earn money, to make the ends meet. So if she wants to choose a profession like that, great. If not, then to do what she wants to do, she'll have to invest. She'll have to have that base, that kitty that will support everything that brings her happiness. So, yes, she is a very conscientious girl. She knows that she has to evaluate, she must save, she must invest. And that is something that I talked to her about. So now she's really excited about these SIPs and checking. She checks them, how they're doing. And
14-year-old.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously I help her. But right now it's just a lot of learning, but she's excited to learn. But didn't Warren Buffett start at the age of 11, I believe? Really? Yeah.
Okay.
So they started very young.
I was just going to ask you, what is the right age to start teaching them? Catch them young.
I think, 10, 11, 12, anytime you feel that your kid is ready, you can just
ठीक.
involve them in what you're doing. Initially, they'll hear you. They'll warm up to what you do. When it comes to investments, they'll enjoy when you say "Ye investment ka profit tha, let's have an ice cream today." Something like that. The perks of doing this. It'll have a very positive connotation, and then they might just want to do it themselves.
Like include this in your everyday life, like this.
Yes.
Talk about this.
Talk about money.
Diwali, before we move on to my next question, I want to learn a little bit more about Invest Queen, your venture, which is how I found you. Tell us what that is about. What do you plan to do with it, and what do you do? Like, how do you help people with that?
So, Vipin, it has a little backstory. You know now that I was a banker. I used to make my own investments, and I used to make investments for my clients. And therefore, everybody around me used to do the same. And that was my world. When I became an entrepreneur, I started meeting a lot more women who were in very different professions. They were lawyers, they were content creators and teachers with Prashali, going to school and, us meeting a lot of teachers. The only one thing that I realized after knowing all of them was that they are earning money. They think they are independent, but they're really not investing. That was something that I knew.
Yeah.
But I think the trigger was that one of my childhood friends, we literally grew up together. I wouldn't call it a divorce or separation. She was abandoned by her husband the day she delivered their baby. And I have seen her worried sick only for money.
Okay.
Because
Not about the relationship
was secondary. Now she was responsible for another life. She saw that, this beautiful child needed to be taken care of. And how? Yeah. It had to be money, right? There were no investments. Thankfully, her parents are amazing. They supported her. But over a period of time, now the boy is 7, I started working on our portfolio. We started working together. And I see magic of life in her eyes again. Only because she has this comfort at the back of her mind that, chalo, relationship is one, but I am sorted. I can look after my boy. He goes to a very nice school. She's able to support a life which is not compromised. Right? And that only happened because she could sort her finances out. And during this course, either I reached out to some or some of the girls gravitated to me, and we sort of started building portfolios. Mostly people who are known, friends, family. And over a period of time, the kind of confidence I see, it's not just money. It is that freedom that I keep talking about. And this friend has been nudging me all the time that you have to do something where we can reach out to more girls. And therefore, with the 2 ventures and with my daughter Prashali growing up, I really did not have the bandwidth. But I don't know, now I felt that I do have some time. I don't call it a venture, but it is a side hustle, and I want to continue doing that. Under Invest Queen, my endeavor is to create content, which is very simple, which is easy to understand, easy bite-sized nuggets, which can help you begin investments. And on the outside, offline, I meet some, so we conduct small groups, group sessions with women, with teachers, different professions. I could just do it anywhere for anybody, where we try and let them start their investments, because it's only the beginning, which is tough. Once you understand, you'll find so many people, so many ways to kind of grow. Yeah. But it's the initial push, the initial education that you need, bare minimum. Like I said, it's very simple. It's only the popular media that makes it sound so difficult. You watch CNBC, they'll talk about PE ratios, EBITDA margins, and such fancy ratios. You feel, ye to mujhe nahi aata, ye main nahi kar sakti hu. But actually, you can just understand bare minimum also. You don't have to know everything to be able to start investing and get to a certain level. So my idea is to help them get to begin and get to a certain level. And then I know they will be on their own and they'll do a good job.
मुझे लग रहा है बहुत ही noble cause है ये क्योंकि this is really about like this teach a man how to fish and he'll eat forever, right? वो जो कहावत है, right? Instead of giving him a fish to eat, तो वो वाली बात है. अगर आप सिखा देते हो and they eat forever, they make money forever, they become independent and they're on their own, and इससे बड़ी मदद क्या होगी किसी की? मेरे को लगता है बहुत ही noble है ये. And do you also take personal consultations for people?
Hi, it's nothing. So I just started this about a month and a half ago. Vipin.
Really? Okay.
I'm grateful that you stumbled upon this, and we're talking about it at this stage already. But I do informal consultations. I get a lot of phone calls through the day now, thanks to the channel, where there are hardly any followers yet. But whoever knows has reached out. I conduct sessions. I do some one-on-ones, depending upon what my schedules are. And yes, I try to reach out to as many women as I can, and whoever reaches out to me, I try and provide as much information, as much help as possible.
Okay, and the content also, like it does not, like it definitely does not look like somebody who just started, because your content does look pretty good. Like,
Thank you.
And I was very happy to see a woman talking about money. And of course you speak well and all of that, but yeah, and I was telling a friend of mine before this podcast a couple of days ago that I have somebody coming in as a guest to speak on finances. So he said, ask him this and that, and I said, it's not a he, it's a she. I said, really? Matlab, it's a female coming to talk about money. Interesting, because people don't really. This is not the norm, right?
It is not. When I started this business, Vipin, I have a partner. His name is Milan. And Milan.
Milan.
Yeah, he's in his 50s, and we're very lucky to be partners in these ventures, and we do well. But what happens every time there is a meeting, everything's happening. We are finalizing all the details, formulations, everything. And then the other side will look to him to start talking about money.
Yeah.
And then he'll look at me and say, please talk to her.
Yeah.
And it's how people expect and see us.
You see this everywhere. When you go to restaurants, people will always pass you the bill, not to the female, even if your wife is paying or whoever, right? Great. But that's what you're changing with Invest Queen, hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll have more women talking about this. Okay. So in the psychology of money, they talk about, they teach us about the fact that your finances, or being rich at least, is not about how much money you're making. It has two sides, right? So with the janitor example, have you read the book, The Psychology of Money?
I have, but it's been a while. You'll have to narrate the
okay, sure. So they give an example of a janitor who died a millionaire because he kept investing whatever he was making.
Okay.
So वो invest करता गया, और मतलब कितनी छोटी, कितनी कम salary में भी वो he became a millionaire by the time he died, right? So it clearly shows how much you earn matters less than what you do with it, right? So your finance habits matter a lot. So there are two sides to this. एक तो पैसा कमाना कैसे है, दूसरा जो खर्च करने की जो टेंडेंसी होती है हमारी, वो the impulsive purchase. I think घूम फिर के ना सब कुछ आ जाता है doing things with mindfulness and awareness, because impulsive इतनी सारी चीज़ें होती हैं, whether that's food, whether that's spending habits. हम लोग we do things mindlessly all the time. So when you have let's say a burger and a couple of other junk food items in front of you, and शाम को आपसे पूछा जाता है कि क्या हुआ लंच में, I don't even know, like I don't know why I ate it. I just ate it, and you go out to buy something, and then you come back with 20 other things that weren't even on the agenda at all. So all of those, I think you have to work on both sides of the equation. क्योंकि अगर bottomless pit है तो वो उसका भी फायदा नहीं है, right? No matter how much you make. So tell us how to be rich, and maybe you want to take up both these sides separately. First, let's say whatever money I'm making, or somebody, let's take an example of a person, let's say who's earning $1 lakh a month salary, right? In hand, that's what they get. How would you say they can, should we do this live?
Yeah.
How would you say, what would be your advice for them to sort of invest? Of course, they have a life. We have to make a few assumptions here. They have a lifestyle of, let's say, going out once a week, maybe going out for beer once a week. So let's say 2 outings a week, maybe a movie or something. And then, and maybe they want to take 2 holidays. I have a friend in mind who I'm trying to remember. And they want to do 2 holidays, domestic and 1 international.
Okay.
Can they do all of this and still have enough to invest? And what should they do?
So you've asked me a lot of questions.
Yeah, actually, that's a loaded one.
I'll start with the first part. The first part where you were talking about how it is important to save and invest, and there are temptations, and how do you do that? you are a professional runner, Vipin. You know that if there is a race on a particular day, your performance is not your performance of that day. You worked really hard and prepared for that day for months.
Yeah.
Right? So is the case here. That discipline of investing every month, every week, the discipline of trying to save, let's say 10%, 20%, 30%, as much as you can every month to invest that money is something that you really can't compromise. If you are earning lesser than your spends are and you are rolling your credit card limits, you really are not going to create any wealth. It's impossible to get rich unless you are also buying a ticket of lottery which you win someday. Correct? So that is part one. Yes, you have to keep doing that. But I will talk about the mindset here as well. A friend very recently told me that, hey, don't worry about, spending less. Think about earning more. So that has to be your mindset also. You don't have to constantly think, आज मैं बाहर नहीं खाऊंगा क्योंकि मुझे ये 250 रुपए का सबवे नहीं खाना, मुझे सेव करना है. No. Don't beat yourself down. Enjoy it. Keep some percentage, 5 to 6% of whatever you're earning just for yourself to have fun. Keep that every month. But having said that, yes, you do have to save to create wealth. Now coming to this friend that we are talking about.
So before the friend, you just touched upon something. So let's say 5 to 6% for yourself. You keep 5 to 6% for yourself.
Just for yourself. Have fun. Go to a salon, go to a spa, right? Watch a movie, go do whatever.
Why don't you do the breakup of the entire 100%? So 5 to 6% goes there.
So this is going to be very different for everybody.
Sure, of course.
Even for your friend, I was going to say that because this was also my profession for a very long time, it is like you going to a doctor, right? मैं Disprin or ibuprofen ये सब तो मैं दे सकती हूँ, but actually if I have to cure you, I have to sit with you and understand what are your responsibilities today, what's your age, what are your milestones. Does this friend want to buy a house in the next 6 years? Does he see himself retiring by the age of 45, 50? Does he have children? Will they want to go study abroad? Does he need a kitty then? Do they believe in expensive marriages? What does he want to do after retirement? Does he want to be at home or would he like to travel? There are a lot of questions that will follow this up with. I'll follow it up with. And then you arrive at what they're earning today, what these milestones cost today in 2023. Then you put some inflation. See what they will actually cost. Then you see how much you're earning, how much you're saving, what are you investing, is it enough? Do I need to invest into something which gives me higher return or do I need to increase what I'm investing, etc., etc. But like you said, broad strokes. One type of investment that everybody should just do is start SIPs. Just do SIPs. Even if you have lump sums, don't do lump sums into mutual funds. Do SIPs in mutual funds. आपके पास 5 lakhs हैं, तो put it in a liquid fund. Start STPs from there. And
please tell us what's a liquid fund.
Okay. So I'll first give you an example. In 2006, when I started working, I could only invest into 5 SIPs of 1,000 rupees.
Okay.
वो एक sip अभी recently when I checked is around 8 to 10 lakhs.
You said 2012.
I started working in 2006. So
5 SIPs of
1,000 I used to do. I recently checked. I never stopped them. All of them are about 10 lakhs each. 50 lakhs is a lot of money. When you were only doing 1,000, 5,000. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that SIPs go a long way. SIPs are not an independent investment. I'm saying SIPs into mutual funds. You don't have to worry about choosing the best performing mutual fund all the time. Just choose your basic large cap mutual funds, one mid cap, anything very generic, a flexi cap, and just start your SIPs. My favorites are index funds. In our country, the index itself gives a double-digit return. With all the Lehman crisis, with everything that's happened, you will still end up getting a 12-13% compounded return, which is great, isn't it? For a consistent return, it is fabulous. There is nothing else that's giving that kind of a return.
Index funds is one way. I choose the ET Money app and उसका कुछ genius करके feature होता है जिसमें वो खुद manipulate करता रहता है वो क्या बेचना है क्या खरीदना है. Do you think that that's a smarter thing to do or just buying an index fund would be better? than relying on these services.
नहीं आप करो, but don't keep moving in and out of anything.
Okay.
I'll tell you two things. I'll first cover what is a liquid fund, and then I'll come to this in and out from funds. Okay. And when I say this, I have to first tell you I've been on both sides of this. As a banker, there are only few ways to make money. And that is one, by making you invest through me, because then I earn a trail commission on that. Or if there is an upfront commission, I make money, right? So therefore, I'm addressing the in and out first. If you go to somebody and say, this is my portfolio, and he says, नहीं, अब इससे निकल जाते हैं, अब उसमें चले जाते हैं, ये अच्छा fund नहीं है, it's not the best performing fund, it's okay. Don't do that. Give your funds time. 6 to 7 years, बहुत फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. 2-3% here and there doesn't matter. And why I said liquid fund, every fund, let's say you're doing a index fund with HDFC. Every fund house has a liquid fund. This liquid fund gives you 5 to 6%. So while your money is waiting to get into the main fund, you're still making money, which is better than sitting in your savings account.
Correct.
And automatically, you don't have to do anything. Automatically, every month it's going into your SIP. So you just do it once and sit tight. Forget about it.
Okay.
Yeah, go on with your life, and this will do what it is supposed to do. Don't touch the portfolio too much, and this is the bare minimum that everybody should do, irrespective of whatever they are doing in their life, whatever their milestones are. If I don't get to meet you to decide and to decipher what you should do for each milestone and how, then this is something that you anyway should do. ये तो करना ही है.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. So start an SIP. That's
just start SIPs, as many as you can do, and if you have any lump sums. With that also, don't put lump sums into mutual funds or any stocks. Put it in a liquid fund, and then from that you start those SIPs. They're called STPs because they become transfers. SIPs are systematic investment plans. STPs are systematic transfer plans.
Okay.
Bas, usse kar lo.
All right. But so let's say somebody's done that, and then or let's say somebody's already doing that. And now, because we are talking about maximizing wealth, becoming wealthy, what other things that one should consider? What are some of the great investments?
Oh, okay. For me, I think throughout my life, even today, about 65% of my portfolio is mutual funds, Vipin.
Okay.
We underestimate them because they're very plain vanilla. They're great. But other assets
and they are great because they are great coupled with compounding, would you say?
They are great because you're doing it through SIPs, and they're great because you experience compounding, right? That's why they're great.
Yeah.
So that is your bare minimum that you are to do. Of course, real estate. Right? I do have about 30-35% in real estate also.
Okay.
But there also, just see that you enter projects which are not difficult for you to fund, easy on your pocket. Best is to get into something which is ready. You can also draw rent out of. So those kind of investments.
Okay.
And then as you advance in creating your portfolio, I also invest in businesses, private equity, where if I have identified 5 businesses, all 4 have failed, only 1 worked out. For example, I invested in Biryani by Kilo. That is when they started out.
Right.
But I mean, they have
It's
grown
become
and
massive.
how, right?
Yeah.
They should soon be announcing their IPO. But there were so many others I'll not name.
I also know
They
somebody
have
else who
done.
invested in Biryani
Yeah?
by Kilo. And
Yeah.
he's been a guest on the podcast, Munish Johar.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, okay.
So now, because I understand it a lot more, I do a lot more. But for anybody who doesn't, and I am telling you, till the age of 30-35, I was doing very basic things. And it helped me, start my own business, to be financially free. काफी bare minimum जो आपके लिए है life में, वो एक mutual fund portfolio and some real estate can also do.
Okay.
So what you understand, you could just do that bit.
Okay. What do you think about gold as an investment?
When it comes to gold, I don't think jewelry and all is any investment. Biscuits, jewelry. I really like sovereign gold bonds. I see SGBs. Whenever the government comes out with them, you should just invest in them because कोई use नहीं है ना gold का.
For the uninitiated, those who don't
हाँ,
know
क्यों
what
नहीं?
those
तो
SGBs
क्या होता है, आप जब ज्वेलरी खरीदते हैं, कोई भी आप बिस्किट खरीदते हो, आप सोचते हो आपने इन्वेस्ट कर दिया गोल्ड में, उसमें मेकिंग चार्जेस होते हैं, right? And when you're buying jewelry, you end up buying something with stones and something which is beautiful because you have to use it. But what happens is when you exchange it or when you want to sell it, of course you can sell it. Whatever gold there is will fetch you some return, but you end up making losses only because you don't get anything for what you've paid in terms of your diamonds or your stones or anything.
Yeah.
So jewelry is not really an investment which will grow. But what grows is
What
these
about those
sovereign.
biscuits?
उसमें भी आप मेकिंग देते हो, ठीक है रख लो, कितना रखेंगे, you know, you have to safeguard your gold
Right.
biscuits, you have to keep them in the locker, etc.
Yeah.
etc. Now what are
Coins.
these sovereign gold bonds? Here you don't have to take gold. What the government is doing is it is coming out with these bonds very frequently, almost every quarter आते हैं,
Okay.
or they give you a certain price at which they're giving you a gram or as many grams that you want to buy, आप apply कर लो, you get it. They on that they give you 2.5% return also.
Okay.
है ना, there is a lock-in of 8 years. जो भी gold rate है, whenever you want to sell it, the government will buy those at that rate. Gold आ भी गया, रखना भी नहीं पड़ा, उस पर रिटर्न भी मिल गया. अब those gold biscuits are not fetching you to 2.5% return. They're just dead investment. So I feel they are actually a good investment.
Okay.
So whenever you have the money, any spare money, you can keep buying these bonds.
They are not liquid though. Like the
After 5 years, they are.
5 years
Yeah,
they
they're
are.
not very liquid.
Okay. All right. But so essentially what you're doing is, let's say 60,000 रुपए भी गोल्ड का रेट है, आपने ले लिया, जितना भी ले लिया, 8 साल बाद मान लीजिए वो 70,000 हो जाता है. 70,000 प्लस 2.5%
आपको
पर
मिल ही
ईयर
रहा है, हाँ.
हर साल का मिल रहा है आपको, तो वो आपने एक्स्ट्रा
और सेफ है ना, बिकॉज इट्स गवर्नमेंट
और वो
बैक्ड.
सेफ है, कोई चोरी नहीं कर सकता,
चोरी नहीं कर
making
सकता और
charges नहीं है.
गवर्नमेंट इस पे डिफॉल्ट नहीं करेगी. सो इट्स गारंटीड, राइट.
But if the country goes bankrupt and all,
तो फिर
तब
तो
वो-
सब कुछ
फिर तो सब
ही खत्म
then
है ना.
everything
सो
is up
या
for grabs.
दैट्स डूम्सडे.
Yeah, doomsday. Okay. So diversification of the investment is an advice that you would give. So let's say a certain amount of money in mutual funds, certain amount in real estate, and maybe SGBs is a good investment.
It's a good investment, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And would you want to talk about some of the habits that people should build to curb their spending habits, or like at least not? So I know you don't want people to deprive, right? But is there, like, I think Ramit Sethi, who's a finance guru, I think he also he has a Netflix special now.
Okay.
So he also talks about not saving on your coffee. People say, right, वो कॉफी पीनी बंद कर देनी चाहिए आपको, because वो कुछ तो मैथ्स दिखाते हैं, इतने डॉलर्स आप डेली के सेव करोगे तो इतना हो जाएगा, and it'll be worth that much. वो सब करने की बजाय he says, I want you to examine all your spendings very carefully and furiously cut down on the things that you don't really care much about, and then double down on the things that you really care about.
Yeah.
So would you say something like that is a good practice to do, like evaluate your life? And so let's say somebody right now, let's take an example. We'll come back to our friend.
Okay.
Who's, right? Somebody, let's say, whose only money comes into the account and you're not doing anything with it. Okay. I think पहला स्टेप तो ये होगा शायद कि आप एग्जामिन कर लो कि क्या करते हो लाइफ में, स्पेंडिंग एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट. would you suggest?
Absolutely. You have to understand what are your discretionary and non-discretionary spends. जो आपको करना ही है, आपको रेंट देना है, बच्चे की स्कूल की फी है, your bills, your basic, grocery, etc. You have to write that down.
खर्चे दोनों.
खर्चे. उसके बाद there are certain annual expenses, your insurances, your holidays, birthdays, Diwali, those kind of spends that you make. You put that in your Excel and then see what does it mean monthly to you.
Okay.
ये सब तो देखना ही है.
ठीक है.
Then you have the surplus left.
Right. Then you have the surplus left, and then the next thing would be, would you say to that friend of mine? Would you say the next thing to do is to define certain goals that you have, short term, long term?
Absolutely. You have to define those goals, because suddenly, and I have experienced such people in my professional life, where the kid is to go to the US in 2 years. There is no kitty ready. What do you do? Yeah, you are very desperate. Then you will either compromise what the kid does, or I don't know, you'll take a loan or maybe manage, but you don't want to be in that situation. So it's best to identify your milestones, see what do you need then, do a back calculation and see what you need to invest today to get to them. And in most cases, you will be okay doing SIPs for them. Trust me.
Okay.
Most of them can be fulfilled just by 10-15% return.
Yeah.
Also, we keep thinking about how should we get rich. You follow the discipline, do your basics. Through your journey of investments, there will come a biryani by kilo. You will stumble upon something like that because your orientation is such. Right. You're open to ideas. You're evaluating what you can do. जब हम सोच ही नहीं रहे हैं, तो वो आएगी भी opportunity, तो it will not come to you. Correct? When you're actively looking for ways, and you should be open to the fact that some of them will work out, some of them will not. But one of them, one or two will really work out. Don't we hear stories of our, granddad saying, "वो land खरीदी थी, अब तो वो सोना है," things like those. So it'll happen with you too. But you can't work only on them, and that's the biggest mistake that I will say all of us make. What we keep doing is there is a constant noise. ITC ले लो, एक महीने में ना double हो जाएगा, ये वाला stock कर लो, वो वाला. When it comes to finance, all we're talking about are stocks, right? And those businesses which are going to be multi-baggers. And therefore we think maybe, we don't know enough, we don't understand this, maybe we should do this, how much do we put in that? And you're constantly only in that rigmarole. वो important नहीं है. It could be just a small part of your portfolio. If you really enjoy doing stock trading, if you understand a little bit, do it. Otherwise, stay away from these stocks and stock trading. Leave it to the mutual fund manager. Let the fund manager do it, क्योंकि उसका अपनी salary और bonus उसके performance पे ही टिका है. So give it to the guy whose job is to do that, rather than you getting into the market and losing your sleep over your stock portfolio. Because those are the horror stories that you hear all the time of people losing money, using margins to go after a certain stock tip, and that not working out. So stay away from that. Follow the discipline. I think basics really work out well.
I think that's a brilliant advice. I think with most things in life, 90% of it is actually really just mastering the fundamentals, the discipline
right.
of it, of doing it every day, and then rest of it takes care of itself most of the time. And then once you, let's say you got to that level where that 90% of those fundamentals are not serving you, that's when you can get into the details of whether this would work or not, not work, and then you can educate yourself more about it, and then take steps.
Absolutely.
But knowing first of all where you are, let's say if you're a sedentary person who does need to lose a lot of weight and does need to get active, you don't need to worry about which are the best shoes in the market or what is the best gear. First thing you need to do is chappal pehan ke head out of the door, go for a walk.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah. Excellent. So, moving on, what are your views about crypto?
I don't do crypto. I don't understand crypto.
Okay.
So, I don't have a view there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But is that... okay. Do you have a hunch though? Or do you say, pata nahi hai, bas, and that's why I don't get into it?
As a rule in life, I don't get into something which I find is too complicated. Galti bhi ho sakti hai. Maybe I'm missing out on a very big opportunity, but I only do the stuff I can understand.
So then not even a minute percentage of, like, tiny bit percentage of your portfolio?
No.
Nothing at all?
No.
Not even Bitcoin?
Not even Bitcoin.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Tell me about, so this is a very big one for a lot of people. This is a conversation we've had at home so many times. Home buying versus renting, right? It's a big conversation. Please tell us first of all, what do you suggest? Home buying versus renting, which is a good...
I don't know if it is a practical question. It's mostly an emotional choice. We've grown up only dreaming of our dream house. So for us, it is an emotional thing more than anything practical or financial. But I'll tell you what, I'll try and answer this. And I'll try to answer this with some emotions and some practicality. See, what happens is when you go and buy a house, if you think that your budget was 2 crores, the house of your dreams will be either 2.5 or 3. What then happens is you are stretching yourself thin. Loan bhi aap zyada lete ho, usme kaam bhi hota hai. You really push yourself to get to that house because this is your dream. और हम सब करते हैं. But इसका एक तरीका है. If you can do that, what you do is any house that you want to purchase, just find out the rent. Your rent will be about 2.5% of the value of the house.
Okay.
Right? So 2 crores ka around 40,000 should be the rent.
Right.
Live in that house, take it on rent. You're living the way you want to. Now, whatever money you had, build assets. Buy houses or commercial properties which are ready, which are not difficult for you to buy within your budget, where the EMI probably is either taken care of by the rent that you're earning or a little bit of EMI that you're taking on yourself and some of the rent. And try and build assets in this process. घर में खुशी से उसी घर में रह रहे हैं जैसा हमें घर चाहिए था, by paying a rent. अपना नहीं है, that's the only emotional part you are dealing with. Sure. But in the meanwhile, you're creating a lot of assets slowly without putting any pressure on yourself. yourself where you are starting a parallel income for yourself. Yeah. And where you're comfortable. So I recommend doing that. In fact, interestingly, a lot of rich people do that. They live in the houses where they want to live and pay this 2.5% of a rent of that value, and they build assets parallelly. But I also know that it's very difficult for us to do because all we are saving up for is that dream house. So if you can do that, I think that's the best thing to do.
Super interesting. So what I've heard from you is that कि मान लीजिए 2 करोड़ का घर आपको लेना है. Let's say your dream house is that. एक्चुअली 2 का नहीं है, 2.5 करोड़ का पड़ेगा वो आपको, सब कुछ मिला के 2.5 या 3 का पड़ेगा. तो आपके पास लेकिन 2 है, राइट? सो उस 2 से आप 1 करोड़ का लोन ना लेके आप उसी घर में रहिए 3 करोड़ वाले में जो आपको पसंद है, राइट? लेकिन जो 2 है उससे आप और घर या और एसेट्स खरीद लीजिए. मान लीजिए आपने कोई 1.5 करोड़ का घर खरीद लिया, एक 50 लाख का छोटा सा फ्लैट खरीद लिया, 2 अलग अलग, एंड लेट्स से कपल ऑफ दोस एटलीस्ट वन ऑफ दोस इन्वेस्टमेंट्स विल डू वेल. वो आपका 2 का कुछ टाइम बाद 2.5 हो जाएगा और कभी तो 3 भी हो जाएगा. मीनवाइल जब भी होगा, meanwhile you are staying in the house that you always wanted to stay. So if you can make peace with the fact that this is not your own but you're still in the same property and you have enough assets of your own, आपका खुद का घर है, बस उसमें कोई और रह रहा है.
Also because your investments are doing so well, आपका landlord तो खुश हो जाएगा जब वो कहोगे I want to redo the bathroom sir. उसको क्या पड़ी है? But you have the money to do it, right? I need more cupboards. I'll build some cupboards sir. He'll be very happy. Do it. Yeah. And you can keep improving that same house, but you're still making a lot more money. Yeah.
Excellent. That is such an important point, and thank you. Thank you. That's brilliant. Okay. About lump sum. So let's say somebody received a lump sum payment, a bonus or something. Let's say somebody had a 5 lakhs. My friend got a 5 lakh bonus or something. Should he pay off some loans that he had, or should he invest? I think the answer is pretty simple, right? They should just evaluate कि उस पे interest कितना जा रहा है versus the expected return on investment.
सिर्फ यही नहीं, अगर आपकी EMIs are a burden, if you have to compromise your lifestyle and standard of living because your debt is too high, then I'd recommend you reduce the liability. But if you're comfortable with your loans, क्या होता है ना Vipin, slowly, in the first 2 to 3 years of taking a big loan, you're really uncomfortable. But then your income increases and that loan is easy for you. So if you have reached that stage where you are comfortably living the way you want to live and that loan is just going on, then build assets. Invest in something else. Because otherwise your whole life will go in providing for this debt that you have to service. And obviously then you have to also evaluate that if 8-9% is your EMI, if the opportunity that you're evaluating is capable of, let's say 13-14% compounding, then anyway that is a better choice. So that's what one has to evaluate. If your burden is not too much, then please create assets.
Okay. While we're at this point, let's even talk about, I'm trying to cover all the scenarios of all different kinds of people who might be listening. Let's say someone's not doing very well financially, and let's say they have some debt accumulated. Is there an advice that you can give them?
If they're not doing well professionally and they have a lot of debt, then they have to really work on reducing debt. I mean, there is nothing that, comes to my mind that I could help them, because there can be ways of, buying a lot of credit cards, reducing the loan, and they will find out, wherever you get cheaper credit from, you reduce the overall burden on you. You know what I'm saying? So let's say this loan is a personal loan that he is under, let's say 10.5%, 13%, whatever the rate of interest is. If there's another place from where he can get cheaper credit, he reduces the loan amount with that cheaper credit and then services that loan. They can work out something like that temporarily, but it is a very difficult situation.
Yeah, reduce the overall rate of interest if you can.
Yes.
And that's one way. And the other is to make more money.
Absolutely.
Okay. Great. What do you own and why?
Oh, I think I did cover that a little, but that's okay. So about 60-65% is all mutual funds built over a period of time. I started investing way back in 2006, and as my income increased, as the bonuses became better, obviously the portfolio grew. Then about 30%, 32% is real estate. And then I also invest in AIFs. I have invested into some businesses.
What's AIF?
These are alternate investments where a small group of investors invest into a certain idea, but the minimum ticket size is much more.
Okay.
And I also invest into PMSs, but I have to also throw a word of caution. I do all of this now after having spent 15, 16 good years into investing into some very basic vanilla products. Yeah, so do this only when you have advanced in what your understanding of financial products is.
Okay, great. You talked about buying businesses. You've invested in a few businesses. Not like buying
Not
completely,
buying, just
but
investing
just
a little
investing.
seed amount.
Yeah. So what? This is actually a great way of this is a great investment. Like it could be.
Could be.
Like it's a potential. And people with money should explore these as well, right? So, do you have any basic fundamentals that you can share? What do you look for in a business before you invest?
Yeah, a lot of things. Of course, the business idea, what kind of market are they targeting? Some of the financials for sure, what has been their growth, etc. But what I personally see the most are the founders. Are they passionate about what they're doing? Are they immersed in what they're doing? Do they really have the vision to grow that business? What does it mean to them? What are their capabilities? And where as investors, if there is any way of adding anything, can we add to that? So financially, yes, a lot of things, some ratios, etc., which are meaningless if the founders are not capable of making the business big. So yeah.
Okay, so when you say when you check the capabilities, what do you look for? It's a past record or past experience of having done something like that?
Just by having a conversation, Vipin, with, let's say, with me today, can't you sense a lot of things?
Of course.
Yeah. So when you meet these founders, talk to them deeply about what they're doing, how much they know, what has been their past experience, how do they deal with failure, what is the plan A, B, and C, what if what they're projecting on Excels can look beautiful, but what if it does not pan out this way? What are they going to do, etc., etc. And once you have these kind of conversations, you kind of get a gut feeling also. I don't know if that means anything to most people.
It does. I think most of the decisions are made from the gut. Yeah.
Yes. And you also bank upon then those those founders to see that how they implement. So a lot of people get a lot of ideas all the time, Vipin, day in and day out, especially in our country. I think now the culture is to start something of your own, and it's amazing. Where most people lack is not the acumen or the idea, it's the implementation. So my questions largely revolve around how. Okay. And if you see that they've not really thought it through to the last W in how, then you realize that, okay, very smart, great idea, but execution might be compromised. So, yeah.
Thinking through matters.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, a lot of decisions are actually made through the gut, and then the rationalization happens. I remember when I was working with the design studio, my boss was an amazing guy. He's going to be on the podcast soon. And when we were quoting, I don't even know whether I should talk about this here, but when we used to, let's say, quote a figure to a client, this is the method that he used to tell me. Go about it this way. Evaluate everything. So we had five, six checks. Who are we talking to? Is it the decision maker, or is somebody else a decision maker? If we're talking to the decision maker, then paying capacity. Do they have the money to pay? Do they need what we sell? Like, for example, do they just need something small, or do they really need the big grand thing that we want to do? Then is there a fit, as in what they want? Is that the kind of work that we want to do? So you do all of these checks, and then try and get a sense of their and also competition. Who else are they talking to? So you get the whole picture of what's going on there. Yes. And once you've done that, then he said, forget all of that, and then put your hands in your pocket, look up at the sky, and then come up with the figure. He said and he calls it hands in pocket figure. Okay. So then you've done the calculations.
Yes.
But then what does your gut say about this? And even if that's very different from what the whole picture is saying, go with the gut. That's
absolutely.
That's just
this
one
works.
way. My daughter's turning 2 next month. Yeah. So it's the best period of my life. And I'm glad I learned about SIPs a while ago. Just when she was born, I learned about all of this and I started some stuff. But I think by the time she's 18, 20, and by the time she goes to college,
Yes.
I will hopefully have enough for her to.
Oh, yes.
What advice would you give me or someone like me?
I think you're already doing the right things. I just want you to be careful in terms of when you go to the market and talk to people that you want to invest for your daughter. The likelihood of them pitching you an emotional product, which usually is insurance linked, is very high because the commissions are very high. So insurance may not even crop up in the discussion, but they'll say that, you know, हो सकता है वो Howard जाए, आपको पता है उसमें 4 crore लगता है, ये policy आप ले लो, it'll cover this, that, everything, and we have so many funds, debt भी करते हैं. Basically, what they're trying to sell is a ULIP, unit linked insurance plan. It has got some insurance and some investments. Very high charges, don't generally do well, are very expensive. You should keep your insurance and your investments separate. You have to have an insurance which will cover for everything. If you are the sole breadwinner of the family, before you do any fancy investment, you have to see what does it take for my family to continue living the way they do, and that is the figure that you have to buy an insurance for. Just buy a pure term cover. Only term insurance cover. Don't buy anything fancy, no endowment, nothing. Kuch nahi milega na, it's just an expense, so be it. Because that's the cheapest and the most efficient way to cover your family. And once you have children, all the more reason to keep increasing your insurance, because now the needs of the family are a lot more. And invest through SIPs for her, Vipin, today. These SIPs will do more than enough for all her education requirements. Just see by the time she's 18, what do you anticipate the cost to be? And just keep doing SIPs for that and cover yourself.
And with the term insurance, you said something interesting. So you said just buy a basic term insurance plan, not the जिसमें वो होता है कि कुछ टाइम बाद आपको पैसा वापस मिलता है.
नहीं लेने की जरूरत.
Those are expensive.
They are expensive ना. हर चीज एक cost पे आती है. Suppose कोई कहता है guaranteed है. Never fall for any guaranteed plans because there is a cost attached. There is a built-in cost to give you that guarantee.
Okay.
And also stay away, steer clear from anything which is too complicated and fancy. जितना आसानी से समझ में आता है उतना ही करना चाहिए. And therefore just take a term insurance, life cover. If I kick the bucket, my family gets this. Uske alawa kuch nahi. And otherwise, do your SIPs because you have more money now to invest in clean products which you understand and will give returns than, you know, these complicated bundled products.
Fabulous. So my previous guest on the podcast asked a question. What makes you get up in the morning and be excited about the day?
The life I lead now excites me. The fact that my golden retriever wakes me up is exciting enough for me to get out of bed. I get to prepare my daughter's tiffin. It's really exciting to put something together, dropping her to school, being able to work out in the morning every day, because when I used to work, I never had the time to do that. I really get excited. Deciding in advance what I'm going to do. Going to work is really exciting. I love my work, Vipin. So I think I look forward to everything that my life offers to me today. And it is very exciting to lead this life.
Amazing. I can feel the vibes. It's coming across. Yeah.
I'm glad.
So you don't know who my next guest is going to be, but if you were to ask them a question, what would you ask them?
Okay, let's ask your next guest. If they could go back in time and get to relive the last 20 years, what would they do differently?
Interesting. I'm looking forward to knowing that.
So am I.
So let's do that then. Let's ask you that question.
No.
How about that?
That's for the next guest to answer. I believe I might have to answer what I've already answered
You've
what the
already
previous
answered that,
guest.
but
I have a question for you though.
Sure.
Can I?
Yeah, please.
So I am a fitness enthusiast, but I started really late in life. I started working out at the age of 35.
I have resisted this question throughout the podcast. What does late mean? How old are you? I started at 35. You look in your early 30s now.
I'm 41.
Amazing.
And I started working out at the age of 35. And for me, running was the only thing that I understood as a workout. But as I started training, my coach, my trainer would always tell me that don't run, your knees will go bad. So what do runners do to preserve themselves? Because I'm now really fearful of long distance running because I don't know what to do with my knees if I was to, go wrong there.
Yeah. So 100% these are myths. Running is great for your knees. Running does not do any harm unless you do it wrong, which is, so basically you hurt yourself by doing too much too soon. If you try and run very fast, and let's say you've not been running for a while, right? What happens is the key is to start, when you want to become a runner, the key is to go slow in the beginning, because first thing that responds when you start running is your cardiovascular system. Your heart begins to, become more and more efficient. So आप ज़्यादा जा पाओगे, आपकी सांस कम फूलेगी. But the rest of the body takes a while to adjust to that new movement, right? It's a repetitive movement. You're pounding the pavement repeatedly. And these muscles and tendons and all of these need to get used to. And that takes a long time. That can take years. Okay. So not doing too much too soon is the key. And run. And of course, and don't worry, like, shoes is a big argument, right? Whether you should have too much cushioning or like super expensive shoes and all of that. Minimalistic is the way the world is moving forward. There's a lot of research that supports that as well. I myself, I'll show you after the recording. I'm wearing Luna sandals, which are minimalistic footwear, which I use for running. Okay. So it's a sandal that you can run in, and I walk in those as well every day. Even barefoot. If you've known Milind Soman,
yes. I'm surprised at how he runs bare feet.
So Milind is also a friend of mine. Okay. And we do this run every year together called the Last Long Run. So Milind has been running barefoot for a very long time. And I sometimes still run in shoes. I do my races when I'm doing them because the terrains are different. Like some of these are in trails and all of that. So I can't run barefoot there. But he keeps insisting and he keeps telling me that I should really, really move away from the shoes completely. Because... So I'll tell you why. If I can indulge you for 2 minutes.
Oh yes, please. I'm all yours.
So what happens is when you are running, हम जब भागते हैं तो गलत तरीके से अगर भाग रहे हैं, let's say we are landing on our heel, that's the wrong way. That hurts your knees.
I was going to ask you that. Do we have to land on the toes?
So midfoot is ideal, but every runner is different, and your form correction can take years, really. And that's why if you're running fast and you're hitting your heel very hard on the ground, it can be damaging in the long run. Okay. So वो ना करके अगर आप slow करोगे तो midfoot landing होगी, soft landing होगी, ठीक है. होता क्या है कि जब मिडफुट करते हैं या हार्ड लैंडिंग करते हैं, वी गॉट दीज शूज जो हील पे कुशन है, वो आपको बचा लेगा, कुछ नुकसान होने से बचाएगा थोड़ा सा. सॉफ्ट लैंडिंग की जरूरत नहीं क्योंकि इतना बड़ा कुशन है, क्या ही दिक्कत है. स्टार्ट रनिंग बेयरफुट एंड यू विल सी द इम्पैक्ट इमीडिएटली. जैसे ही आप गलत लैंड करोगे, आपने ये हील टच किया, आपका यहाँ पे मैसेज जाएगा सीधा, ढक से फील होगा सर पे. Right, message goes right up because the body communicates that way. You make contact with the ground, you get the message that it's incorrect. ठीक है, तो शू में वो नहीं पता लगेगा आपको. दूसरा good thing, the important thing that they say is that you should land softly on the ground. I never understood कि क्यों softly land करना है, क्या ज़रूरत है. But the moment you start running barefoot, वो जो कंकर पत्थर दिखते हैं सड़क पे आपको, वो जैसे ही चुभेंगे आप, then you start running actually very softly. That builds that corrects your form. Like it automatically corrects your form. It gives feedback to your body about what's right and what's wrong, what is the incorrect form, what is the correct form, which is why contact with the ground is actually great. Yeah, even for your health generally they say it is. So barefoot is great, but भारत देश में अपने पास इतनी साफ जगह होती नहीं है दौड़ने के लिए, इसलिए हमें मिनिमलिस्ट फुटवेयर चाहिए होता है, कुछ तो पैर के नीचे होना चाहिए. वाओ,
एंड हम लोग इतने फैंसी फुटवेयर ढूंढते हैं कि पैर ठीक रहे, नीज ठीक रहे. I'm glad I asked you this question.
Yeah. You need minimalist. You're welcome. So I'll show you the shoe right after this. Yeah. So please run. I'll be very happy.
Yes, I will. Now I will.
Yeah. Yes. This has been an excellent conversation. I'm so glad I met you and so glad we talked about this. And as we do more, I do hope to bring you back and do a deeper dive into a couple of subjects.
I'd love to do that, Vipin. Yeah. Thank you so much once again for having me here.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for staying with us till the end. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please consider subscribing and also sharing it with your friends and family. If you have a takeaway or a learning from this episode, or it made you feel a certain way, you can leave us a comment or a review. This is a zero cost way of supporting the podcast. I really hope you will do it. Also, it is now a weekly podcast, so you can look forward to an episode every Friday. If you subscribe, you will get a notification when a new episode is released. So do it now. See you in the next episode next Friday. Until then, my friends, keep working on finding your ultra.